And joining us now, Professor Lawrence Harrison. He is director of the Cultural Change Institute at Tufts University. However, we have reached him tonight where he is a visiting fellow at Stanford, California. And Professor Harrison, it's great to have you there on the line. How are you tonight?
I'm fine, Steve. How are you?
Just great, thank you. We are in the process tonight of trying to understand Haiti from three different angles, and we know of your work on the cultural angle. So we want to start by looking into why you believe culture matters so much to the success or failure of a country.
Well, I learned it the hard way, I suppose. I worked for 20 years for the U.S. Agency for International Development, directing 5 USAID missions in Latin America, including Haiti, and started with the assumption that Latin America was in trouble because we'd neglected it. I never believed that we'd imperialized it or exploited it. But over the years, as I worked my way through 5 countries, I increasingly got messages that the people that I was trying to help did not see the world the same way I did, and concluded at the end of my career, which was as the USAID director for the first 2 years with the Sandinista government in Nicaragua, that behind Latin America's problems principally were a set of values and attitudes that got in the way of democratic governance, social justice, and prosperity.
So let me follow up on that. What values or attitudes do you believe make a society more likely to succeed?
First of all, a society that's imbued with the idea of the golden rule that goes beyond the family to the broader society. Second of all, the idea that the future can be better, that education is important, that work is important, that saving is important, that justice is important. Those are some of the principal values that characterize the societies that work best for human beings.
Now, if you were on the Borscht Belt, you would say the golden rule is he who's got the gold makes the rules. That's not what you were referring to, I guess.
No, sir.
You mean do unto others?
In some societies, yes, that's the one I was thinking of.
Well, it unfortunately seems very appropriate for Haiti because that is a huge part of their history. But what values or attitudes does a society have which unfortunately make them more likely to fail?
Well, let's take a look at Haiti. Its culture, its values, beliefs, and attitudes are powerfully influenced by voodoo. Voodoo is a religion that has no ethical code, therefore no encouragement to abide by the golden rule. Everything that happens in life is judged to be governed by spirits, hundreds of spirits called loa, and they're very human and capricious. And the only way that you can get any leverage over your future is by finding ways to be nice to the loa, and that means dealing with the voodoo priests and priestesses.
Now, I think I read one example in your book which suggested, for example, if somebody wanted to steal something in a supermarket, they would justify it by saying the spirits obviously wanted me to take it because that's how I successfully stole something. If that's the culture of the place you're living in, are you saying that's why they're part of the reason why they're in so much trouble?
Absolutely. And to be sure, voodoo is principally practiced by the lower classes in Haiti. However, all Haitians are in some way or other influenced by it, and that comes from one of my sons-in-law who's a Haitian who has a graduate degree from Harvard University.
How do you measure cultural factors?
Well, we have developed a typology of 25 factors that look very different in societies that are prone to progress, what I call high cultural capital societies, as opposed to those that resist progress, low cultural capital societies. And those 25 factors we've converted into a questionnaire involving upwards of 100 questions that have now been applied in several countries, and that do tend to give us confirmation of our assumptions about why some people are doing, some countries, some ethnic groups are doing better than others.
And how would you influence or change a culture to increase that society's chance of economic success? You may have some examples from other parts of the world like Ireland or Spain or Quebec, something like that.
Yes. First of all, you cannot do it from the outside. It has to have a critical mass of people within the society who believe that the culture is providing some obstacles to the achievement of what they would like to see in their society. So that's the condition sine qua non. Once you've got that, then there are a number of things that you can do. For example, you can focus on child-rearing practices, you can, usually child-rearing practices are perpetuated from generation to generation by the simple fact that the new parent remembers how he or she was treated as a child and uses the same methods. And particularly in a society with high levels of illiteracy, which is the case of Haiti, which has got upwards of 40% illiteracy, it's very difficult to change the child-rearing practices to inculcate the values and attitudes that make for democratic governance, for social justice and prosperity. Now, this also involves religion in a very important way. Haiti is never going to find its way into a place in the sun as long as voodoo is the predominant religion. So religious reform is a very important aspect. Education, of course, is indispensable. You cannot develop a society with half the people illiterate. And the cases of Ireland, Quebec, and Spain are all relevant in the sense that they are Catholic countries that have suppressed some of the Catholic influence to achieve their progress. For example, in 1960, Quebec was about 2/3 of the per capita income of the Anglophone provinces of Canada. The silent revolution, La Révolution Tranquille, was introduced by some young politicians who decided that they would take charge of what was going on in Quebec. There was a tendency to view their inferior position, inferior to the Anglophone provinces, as a consequence of exploitation by the Anglophone provinces, similar to the explanation that one finds of backwardness in Latin America, I might add. But the young leaders of the silent revolution concluded that the thing to do was to really learn from the more progressive provinces, and they introduced heavy emphasis on education, which involved, among other things, reducing the Catholic Church's influence at the secondary level, which, by the way, was a crucial element in Ireland's transformation.
Let me just jump in at this point, though, and ask you to follow up on something you said a moment ago, which I think our viewers may have found fairly controversial. Namely, you said something that I'm not sure in a politically correct society you're allowed to say, which is the whole Haitian relationship with voodoo has got to end, and we've got to be blunt in telling them that it's got to end, or they're never going to succeed as a society unless they end it. That could be interpreted as very heavy-handed, Western imperialist, we're telling you what to do. So how do you actually say that in this day and age and get away with it?
Well, I don't say it. I don't say it to dictate it. It's being said by a number of Haitian leaders, including a group around Boston that we're working with, who has got a group that have counterparts in Haiti, all prominent people who believe that voodoo is a massive obstacle to progress in Haiti.
Okay, let me put up a map at the moment here just so people can see one thing we've really learned a lot more about in the last few weeks since this earthquake, this terrible earthquake happened, and that is the so-called riddle of Hispaniola. Same island, Haiti on the west, the Dominican Republic on the east, and they seem to have so little in common when you look at some of the most important numbers. Let's go through the numbers. In Haiti, life expectancy is 61 years of age. Adult literacy, as you just indicated, 62%. Education enrollment, just over half. And the GDP per capita, just over $1,000 a year. Look on the other side of the island at the Dominican Republic. Life expectancy, more than a decade, more, 72 years. Adult literacy, again, much higher, 89%. Education enrollment, 73%. GDP per capita, 5 times higher, 6 times higher, $6,706. That all according to the UN Human Development Report of 2009. I know we could do a whole program on this, but we don't have the whole program, so give me the bullet points as to why these two countries on the same piece of land are so awfully different.
The irony is even greater because for the first half of the 19th century, Haiti overran the Dominican Republic and ran it. It was much more powerful. The answer has got to be found in culture because the geographics, the resource endowment is virtually the same. And they both started as basically sugar-producing colonies, one a Spanish colony in the Dominican Republic, where, by the way, I've also directed the U.S. aid mission, and the French colony and the Haitian side.
Does that matter at all, Lawrence, the fact that one was Spanish-founded, the other was French-founded?
Not so much as I think that Haiti became independent very early, 1804. The Dominican Republic became independent about 40 years afterwards. Haiti became independent as a result of a slave uprising that threw out the French and that left actually the country in two pieces at the outset. One run by Alexandre Pétion in the south, very, very liberal, enlightened. The other by Henri Christophe, very authoritarian in the north. But when the country was joined subsequently to their passing, it became a powerhouse, at least on the island of Hispaniola. It overran the Dominican Republic and ran it. Now, the really interesting contrast is, in addition to the Dominican Republic, is Barbados, because Barbados was populated by slaves imported by the British from the Dahomey region of West Africa, whence came the slaves that the French imported into Haiti. So obviously what you've got in Barbados is light years ahead of even the Dominican Republic. Barbados is on the verge of first world status, number 31, I think, in the human development listings of the United Nations, whereas Haiti is like 167. And yet the people are the same, which means that culture matters, race doesn't matter at all.
Let me pick up on the slavery angle that you referenced in that last answer. How would you say that Haiti's history of slavery has shaped its culture?
By contrast with Barbados, there were very few opportunities to dilute the influence of slavery, which is a very powerful negative force in culture. The fact that Haiti moved directly from total slavery to total independence in 1804 suggests that that has got a very strong something to do with its problems. The case of Barbados, again, is relevant. Barbados became independent in 1966. The offspring of the slaves were gradually acculturated to British values, beliefs, and attitudes. They're largely Anglican in religion, and they're referred to as Afro-Saxons or Black Englishmen. And they are culturally, basically, of the Anglo-Protestant offspring countries. So the slavery experience was not permitted to get a break as it did in the case of Barbados. Slavery is a very, very negative cultural force, obviously. Work becomes a curse. Trust is impossible to build. The future is gloomy and dependent on the whims of somebody else, a master. And of course, this problem has been aggravated by the fact that the mulatto elite in Haiti have, in some respects, taken over the place of the French masters. They are highly racist. I had a neighbor in Pétionville, where I lived between 1977 and 79, who once said to me, you know, the blacks, they're really not entirely human.
Actually, I read the quote. I think you said they were subhuman.
Okay.
Same difference,
Fair
I guess.
enough.
Well, let's look forward and try this on. Do you think there's anything that can be done to influence or change elements of Haiti's culture that for the moment appear to resist progress?
I absolutely do, and there's a terrible coincidence in the earthquake. About 6 weeks before the earthquake, I got several people in the Obama administration interested in an approach to Haiti that would have been long-term, 10 years minimum, focusing on such things as child rearing, religious reform and change, heavy emphasis on education, use of the media, use of political leadership to start a process of what I'm describing in an op-ed I've written recently as a cultural revolution. It's necessary. I might add, by the way, that there are some striking parallels between Haiti's problems and the problems of sub-Saharan Africa. The Cameroonian economist Daniel Tunga Mangale makes the observation that sorcery is common to all of the societies in sub-Saharan Africa, and that it is a major obstacle to their progress, and helps to explain why the progress has been so disappointing in that part of the world. Africa is Haiti. Haiti is Africa.
Well, let's conclude then on a bit of a personal note, because you did tell us earlier in the discussion that your son-in-law is Haitian. He lives in the United States. He has a graduate degree from Harvard, but you also say he feels the imprint to this day of the voodoo. How can that be?
I ask him about it, and he will go back to some early childhood experiences that may or may not have been real, that he carries in his mind. I should tell you, by the way, that when I was the director of the aid mission in Haiti in 1977, I had a meeting of all the Haitian employees of the aid mission, and one of the employees, who had a graduate degree from the University of Pittsburgh, said to me, if any Haitian ever tells you that he or she doesn't believe in voodoo, he or she is lying.
Well, in which case, how can you possibly make any progress? Well, if you say that the only way you're going to make progress is to get voodoo off that island, and given what you just said 10 seconds ago, it does sound rather hopeless, doesn't it?
Not at all. You've got a profound religious reform going on throughout Latin America in the wave of evangelical and Pentecostal Protestantism, which may not be progressive in the United States and Canada, but it is very progressive in Latin America by comparison with the traditional Catholic Church. You have 20% of Brazilians, 40% of Guatemalans, and they are behaving much more along the lines of progress-prone cultures. They are building cultural capital.
Lawrence Harrison, director of the Cultural Change Institute at Tufts University. We're very grateful to have you on the line from Stanford tonight, where you're also a visiting fellow. Thanks so much for being on TVO for us.
My pleasure, Steve.